one of the funny things about guitar is if the guitar is vintage or it's a guitar you've always wanted and the guitar is not good, you're going to convince yourself that it is, and you'll be with it for a while. Hi, my name is Vernon Reid, and I'm on the record with Ultimate Guitar.
All right, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. You got a new record out we got to chat about, of course. So it's coming out in October here in a couple weeks.
October 3rd, yeah.
So as I understand it, it's kind of a mix of songs that had been written a while ago that you were revisiting and some new stuff. Is that kind of typical?
Yeah, it's some tunes I wrote a while back. A while back. We have a couple of tracks out now. This The Haunting and Beautiful Bastard, and there's some live. I mean, there's live in studio stuff, but there's some stuff that I had put together a long time ago, and then had kind of resurrected, brought them back, and then we have some stuff that's current, like in real time. So, yeah, it's a mixed bag.
So I got a chance to listen to this record over the last week or so, and there's a lot to be proud of, obviously. There's some incredible stuff on there. You seamlessly go between genres. People ask me what it sounds like. I'm like, it sounds like Vernon Reid. But is there a song or something on there that you're most proud of or most excited for people to hear?
Oh man. Yeah, I covered Politician by Jack Bruce. And interestingly enough, I played that song one time. Steve Vai was doing a benefit in LA, and we actually played Politician. And there was a tribute to Jack Bruce in London, and with like all these famous British musicians, and recorded there. So I have always wanted to record it because I used to play it with Jack. I was in one of Jack's bands, and so we finally did it, and it really turned out. It turned out really, really great. So I'm really proud of the way that song came out. And that song, the guitar solo, is not an overdubbed later. It was actually done live with the band when it was recorded. It's the one take. It's the first take of that one.
Is that pretty typical for you to kind of do the improvised solo and one take solos? I always love it when people do that. Is that a common thing for you?
Well, you know what? I've had, it's been a mixed bag. Sometimes I will worry over it. Other times it's like, I'm just gonna go for it, and then whatever it is, it is. Um, Certainly, I think it's legit to put solos together, and I have no problem with that. But as well as I embrace the idea of doing it one time, one and done. I think both things are valid. I like the first song, "Door of No Return." The first song, "Door of No Return," that's put together from different takes, and I'm not ashamed of that. That's I wanted to have a certain kind of effect, and it turned out great that way. Whereas Politician, it's a one time. I think when we did Good Afternoon Everyone, it sounds like super overdub. It's a very textural solo, and basically I did like a run through, and it kind of stacked different sounds, but I was cool with it the first time through. And so that's the thing. I kind of wanted to go with wherever the vibe of the song is.
Politician was definitely one track that stood out to me on the record. I've heard people say you're not supposed to mix music and politics. I think those people are wrong. What are your feelings on that?
Well, it's funny because we just had Back to the Beginning, that situation for Ozzy, and when you War Pigs, if you think War Pigs is one of the most explicitly anti-war songs. It's right up there with Machine Gun and Masters of War, and basically, you can write about whatever you want. You just have to stand behind it. And I was fortunate to hear, the last Black Sabbath gig and to hear the last version of War Pigs in Birmingham and just hear the entire audience sing every word. So yeah, I think, politics is life and life is life. I mean, not everything isn't politics per se, but it's not something to run away from. Not at all.
So that was something else you brought up, playing that gig, Ozzy's last gig. You were there. What was that experience like for you? Were there some special challenges for you playing that gig, knowing that it may be the last time we saw Ozzy on stage?
Nobody really thought that it was going to be. It wasn't like a death watch. It wasn't. It really wasn't. I mean, sure, he had health challenges, but he was vibrant. He was like, it wasn't. It was not the feeling that that Ozzy was going to go. It really wasn't. It didn't feel that way. Nobody. I think the fact that his mobility was challenged, and that he was on the black throne, I mean, that was very emotional. But honestly, there wasn't a vibe. Nobody had a vibe that I think it would have been a wildly different experience if people really felt that. That was not the case.
Were you able to speak with Ozzy at all? What were kind of your final words, your final interaction with Ozzy?
Well, everybody was I mean, there was just a lot of people, that needed his and I reminded him of when we first met at the Sony offices, and he was really cool. We had Living Color just come into the scrimmage, and I said, "Man, you were really cool when we met." And he was like, "Oh yeah, man." So that was, and his dear friend Lemmy was one of the first people in metal to really embrace us. So it was cool. We had a couple of seconds to chat, and it was good. It was very pleasant.
Well, he'll definitely be missed, obviously. But I wanted to get back to the new record. You talk about revisiting some of these songs, and it brings up this old, maybe it's a deeper question than what I'm getting at. But how do you know when a song is done?
That's a great that is a great question. How do you know when a song is done? Well, when you've when the thought feels complete. Sometimes, you can add other parts to songs, right? Yeah, okay, here's a funny thing. People fight about the Star Spangled Banner, right? But we only sing really the first stanza of the Star Spangled Banner. The Star Spangled Banner is mad long. People talk about disrespecting the anthem. We disrespect the anthem all the time because we cut out, it's got like 6 verses or something. It's insanely long. People would be passing out if we ever did the full Star Spangled Banner. So we edit it. It's done. The Star Spangled, the way we do it is kind of not the way, Francis Scott Key intended. So we're always disrespecting Francis Scott Key. Man, NFL games would be mad long if we ever did the Star Spangled Banner the way it's written. I mean, when the thought is complete, when the thought is complete, that's when the song is done. Interpretation is never over. You can always revisit, rethink how a song is interpreted. But the actual text, when the text is done, it's done.
So I'm looking at the album cover for the new record, and I'm seeing your beautiful new Reverend guitar. Uh, I love that guitar, man. It's so cool with the hobo symbols on the fretboard. I love it. How did that guitar come about through Reverend?
Well, that was, man, that was a collaboration with Ken Haas and Joe Naylor, and talking about, what they wanted to do with the signature model. And, I had this poster that had all the hobo signs, and I was like, man, this is really interesting that people that rode the rails made these symbols for each other so that other people that ride on the rails could know if there's a hospital nearby, if there are dogs, if there are cops, and it evolved from, I think, really from the late 1800s all the way through the 20s or whatnot. So it became this symbolic language that was fixed and evolving. And I thought, that's a fundamental American experience, and I wanted to honor that, and it's kind of the edgy, the outsider scenario. And then the other thing is the guitar is really a fine guitar. I mean, for those rail hammer pickups, you can get a wide range of tones. It really does really well with overdrive, distortion, whatever. And you can get great rhythm sounds out of it. I mean, I'm biased, but I have to say, when they did the first prototype, Joe Naylor was not satisfied, the head lead designer. He was like, "Man, I want to take another crack at these." Because I talked about I wanted to do like a 3 pickup thing. And he did it with this 5 position switch with the splitting. It's really, really a fun instrument. Richard Fortis, just would say, "Man, your guitar is dope." I said, "Yeah, I know it is."
I love Richard. So is it fair to say that record is the bulk of what we're hearing on the new record? That guitar?
Yeah, that guitar pretty much. I mean, I do have my PRS S2 Vela is on there, and some of my original Hamers. Actually, my original, the first, the Yin Yang, the black and white Hamer, that's actually on the record as well. But I think the bulk of the guitars are definitely from the recordings recently. Those are all from the Reverend instrument.
When you pick up a guitar, what's the first thing you're looking for? Is it a sonic thing or is it a feel thing? How the neck feels, how it sounds.
I think when you pick up the guitar, electric guitars have to sound good unplugged. They really have to, if an electric guitar doesn't resonate, if it doesn't sound good when it's unplugged, then the pickups are going to have to compensate for any flaws or dead spots in the sound. So you really, interestingly enough, really good electric guitars sound good. They actually sound good. They don't sound like maybe full acoustics, but they sound, you play the chords and they resonate, and then the pickups are only amplifying what's already there. Like I found that out years ago when I used to love BC Riches, right? And I got this BC Rich Eagle that I've been just I fantasizing about. And when I got it, I realized after I lived with it for a while that the pickups were compensating for the body. The body was kind of the it really was kind of dead. And the pickups were compensating. And eventually, this was my dream guitar, and I had to let it go because I had to, you have to. One of the funny things about guitar is if the guitar is vintage or it's a guitar you've always wanted and the guitar is not good, you're going to convince yourself that it is, and you'll be with it for a while. Like you got this is a 1950 whatever Les Paul, it's da da da. And the thing is, it's mint, and there's a whole theory that the reason that a guitar is mint is that nobody ever played it because it was never good, and so that's why it looks perfect because it never got dings or because people used to pick the guitar next to it. So it goes through the years, and then suddenly you have this almost perfect guitar, and then you realize it's not good. So that's the key to it. It's what feels, and it really brands and years. Those are really irrelevant because those are all stories, right? There's this was made out of this ash. This was made of this kind of maple. Da, da, da. That's all fine. It's mahogany, whatever. This guitar was, whatever the story is, right? Ultimately, whether the guitar is a $25,000 guitar or whether the guitar is $200, right? It's what you do with the guitar in your hands. That's it. And and brands, yeah, that's relevant, right? Because that's a standard of quality. But it's also a story. And the guitar, whether it's mass produced or hand done, the guitar has to work. If it was a good day and the luthier was in a good mood and everything worked and the wood was fine, you know what? It could turn out to be a masterpiece and fantastic. But if the guitar, like there's a story. If the guitar is from China, if the guitar is made by Mexicans, if the guitar is da da da, if the guitar is made in Vietnam, That shit is, yeah. But that doesn't mean that the luthier is a clown. I mean, that's the thing. However it comes to be, and whatever it actually is, with the way your hands sweat, how you, that is really the that's the only real story.
I've heard it said about you that you are a plectrum fetishist, whatever that means. I'm not sure who. I'm not sure if you said that or someone else said it about you. But
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I love picks. I love their little I do, I actually, the picks I use a lot. I like the Dunlop as far as picks that are kind of mass produced manufactured. Dunlop 205s and Dunlop 208s are pretty great. The brass tech picks are pretty great. But I also like, you know, there's a make. I love the whole Etsy thing with the people that make different, Timber Tones is a great little company. Zen Picks is another great, they make great. I've got one right here. It's, they're pretty cool. Um, I mean, it's a bit obsessive, I admit, but I think when they work, they really do. And different songs. So you think of I think of guitar picks. You could think of them like golf clubs. Drivers, irons, putters. Like that.
I've I've had this conversation with a couple different people, and it was recently brought to my attention, and a different light was shown on it, that maybe it's not the pick itself that makes a different sound, but the way a pick feels in your hand makes you play a different way. Is that where you find the difference in picks?
Yeah. Well, I think it's especially if you're doing stuff, if you're doing any kind of hybrid picking, like if you're including your other fingers, like you know, thumb, forefinger, and then using your middle finger to kind of to move around. Some things, like the stubbies, right? They have this little dent for your thumb, which is really kind of the Dugain design. There's all these, that have Pick Boy does a bunch of these picks. So different things depending on how they feel in your grip. They will work. If you have to do like a big rhythm things, maybe a slightly larger pick. If you're doing like really fast passages, a smaller pick. The feel of a pick. It's interesting. It can affect you if you play a certain tune. And if the pick helps in that certain thing, then you keep it at hand. That's it.
So what's next for you? I would imagine there's going to be some solo dates. We also heard that there might be a new Living Color record on the way.
Yeah. Well, we're working on the new Living Color record. We have some songs in the can. We're going to keep working till we have all the songs that we need to say what we need to say for the next whatever. I'm playing at the Blue Note with the Hoodoo Telemetry, people from that, playing with the great Steve Jenkins on bass, Don McKenzie on drums, Miss Olithia Anglin on vocals. My man, I always work with him all the time, the keyboard player Leon Gruenbaum. V. Jeff Smith playing saxophone and, guitar and other stuff. And we're doing that next Wednesday on the 24th at the Blue Note. And I'm pretty excited about that. Two shows. And we're gonna play some songs from Hoodoo Telemetry and some songs from earlier records, Known Unknown and Mistaken Identity and Other True Self. So I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Got rehearsals over the weekend, and then we're gonna hit it.
So to me, growing up, the guitar was always a very rock-centric instrument, and I always love people that can take the guitar and bring it into genres where maybe that's not at the forefront of the sound. You've done that a lot. I wanted to ask you about recording on Public Enemy's debut record, and could you tell that band was special from the beginning?
Yeah, man. One of the producers, Bill Stephanie, called me up. He knew me from playing with Defunct. He said, "Yo, I want you to play on this record. I got this." He asked me how I feel about hip hop music, rap music. I said, "I love it." You know what I mean? And that's meeting Flavor Flav and Chuck for the first time. Was amazing. Flav is such an iconic trickster. And Public Enemy really works. because of the combination of Chuck D and Flavor Flav, and Terminator X and everybody else that's in the crew. That was just I was playing my Frankenstrat. I had met the artist Keith Haring, and Keith Haring had did a drawing on this guitar, and I played that guitar on the first Public Enemy record, and that guitar is also on the first Living Color record. So that's my guitar memory of that, playing on Sophisticated, and they've been great friends ever since, and it's a bit of history to have been involved with them. I love it.
What's the best advice you ever got, as far, and it could be, as far as technical stuff or even the business side of the music business?
The best advice I ever got was from, I mentioned him on the album. There's a song on the album, uh, "Meditation." The last time I saw Arthur Rames, and Arthur Rames he was a local guy who played like as good as any famous person. He was incredible, incredible guitarist, saxophonist, and keyboard player. And seeing him was like, I want to put my guitar in a case and close the case and never open it again. It's over, right? And the thing that was incredible about Arthur, he was ridiculously good, but Arthur just said, "Man, just keep practicing." And he said it in a way not discouraging. It wasn't like he was like, "Man, just keep practicing. Just keep at it. Just keep at it." I mean, and then apply yourself, be kind to yourself, but keep doing it.
It sounds simple enough, but I could see that being said in a way that would be discouraging or something like that. Keep practicing it.
Well, yeah, right. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. It could be, yeah, yeah. Good, Well, it's like when somebody says good luck. When there's a way that somebody says good luck, which means I don't think so, right? And there's a way when someone says good luck and they mean it. You know, he meant it in a way to encourage.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. I really appreciate all the music you put out in the world. Thank you so much for being you, being uncompromising. The new record's fantastic. I'm excited for people to hear it. So, thank you.
Justin, Justin, I appreciate you, man. You know what? And have a great time at the festival. And hopefully we'll meet up sometime soon. Okay?